Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Lazy Hypnotherapist. I'm the Lazy Hypnotherapist. I'm your host, Lily, certified hypnotherapist and a trainer of conversational hypnosis, where I teach other practitioners to get better results from their therapy clients when using conversational hypnosis. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining me today. I am sorry that I missed last week. Actually, I wasn't planning on missing it, but I got invited to go to a business retreat and I just took the opportunity. I decided within like one day, and then a few days later I was there. So I missed out on an episode last week, but I kind of think you just got to go for those things in life, and it was really beneficial for me. It was based around business and marketing and growing your business and scaling and all these businessy things. But to be honest, the biggest thing that I got out of it, I think for me, was just putting myself out of my comfort zone, because I work alone completely all day, every day. And to go and be with all these other business owners, and it was like 2 nights, you share a room with someone else. It was something that I have never experienced before in this kind of setting. So for me, it was just like a really big confidence building thing of like, you can do this, put yourself out of your comfort zone. And as we know, when we put ourselves out of our comfort zone, it typically rewards us. And I feel like it was a growth experience for me. So if you are thinking about doing something like that, this might be the little encourager that you need. I kind of didn't really want to go because I was really nervous, but I'm so glad that I did. So that is the reason why I missed last week's episode. And today's episode, what I really want to speak about is, as you would see in the title, the subconscious doesn't speak English. And to be honest, I put that as the title as a little bit cheeky, a little bit of a clickbaity thing, because it kind of begs the question, like, what do you mean? Like, if I speak English, why does my subconscious not speak English? And what I really mean by that is, if you are a therapist, have you ever explained to a client, like, exactly what they need to do? Like, you've told them, you need to do this, this, and this, and you will get the results. And, they nod and they agree, and you think, oh, great, that's really helped them. But then either they don't do it, or they go and do the opposite. They don't put it into practice, because that English that you're speaking to their conscious mind doesn't translate to the subconscious. The subconscious isn't listening to that language. The subconscious, it communicates in a different way. It communicates with feelings. It communicates with images. It communicates with sensations, symbols, metaphors. If we only speak to the logical mind, the message, it's never going to land. And that is why so many clients come to me and they say, I've been in this therapy and this therapy and this therapy for so many years, and they've told me exactly what I need to do, and they've given me really good tools, really good strategies. They were amazing, but it just didn't sink in for me. I'm just not able to do what they're telling me to do. I was never able to put it into practice, or I did for a week and then I went back and it just never landed. And I really love that saying, landed, because it's kind of like the conscious mind, it just kind of like sort of like goes to land and then it goes off in a different direction. The subconscious, we want it to like land and embed, and it only will do that if you are speaking in the language of the subconscious mind. And we need to learn to do that. But mostly what happens there is we need to learn how to communicate in a way that the subconscious mind will respond to of the clients. So the two languages of the mind is the conscious mind and the subconscious. So the conscious is logic, words, analysis, and the subconscious is, like I said, emotion, imagery, metaphor, repetition, patterns, tone. For an example, you can tell yourself, I'm safe 1,000 times. You can literally tell yourself, I am safe 1,000 times. And if the subconscious mind responded just to English, just to words, it would feel safe. But if your body feels unsafe, the subconscious wins. It will always win. Feelings over words will always win. Just really want you to think about that. Feelings over words will always win. So just talking isn't enough. It's really not enough. The client can understand, maybe a bit of their patterning. They can understand, maybe a bit of their childhood stuff and whatever. But if it's not sinking in on that deeper level, if it's not landing in that way, then it's not going to change anything. Because that logical reasoning has nothing to do with the subconscious. Logic has nothing to do with the subconscious mind. It would be so good if it did, because you could say to your client, hey, you're safe, don't worry about it. And they would feel that. You could say it 1,000 times. But unless they feel it, which means unless they understand it on that subconscious level and like there has been a shift in that sense, then it's not going to translate. So it prioritizes feelings over facts, symbols, and metaphors. A simple metaphor can change the game for your client. But what I do, so a lot of hypnotherapists will use metaphor to create change, right? And sometimes it can just by the practitioner coming up with a metaphor and helping their client in that way. But that's kind of, I like to think of like painting, everyone with this broad brush. Like this metaphor is going to work for you and it's going to work for you, and you. And this imagery is going to work for you, and you. Like you would know with say for instance, hypnotherapy is really well known in the stopping smoking space. And a lot of the time what they'll do is they'll have scripts that are the stop smoking scripts. And within that, they will have lots of metaphors. And they have 100 clients in front of them maybe, and they read the same script to them. And basically what that is assuming is that metaphor and that imagery is going to resonate with every single client in front of them. But everyone has different associations to metaphors and imagery. Someone can see a tree and they can feel calm. Someone can see a tree and they can think of magpies swooping. Like, imagery means different things for different people. So the important part of all of this is not that the subconscious or that everybody's subconscious speaks in the same language. It's that everybody's subconscious has an individual language of images, metaphors, feelings, emotions, da-da-da-da-da. It's specific to everybody. And that's where conversational hypnosis really changes the game, in that we get to really only use the client in front of us, their subconscious mind, their language. And the way that we do that is we use what they give to us. So things like metaphors, they will come up in session all the time, but I'm never really giving my client a metaphor to use. I'm using what metaphors they're giving me, and I'm using that to help them create change. I'm using the images that they give me to create change. I'm using the feelings and the emotions that they give me to help them towards breakthroughs. So, say for me, anxiety might feel like a heaviness on my chest, right? But if I use that feeling of what anxiety feels like for me, or what anxiety typically feels like for people on the client in front of me, that's like really not going to work unless they by chance have the same feeling. So I use what they give me, which comes down to knowing what questions to ask to elicit that subconscious information, but then knowing how to use their subconscious language back to them to help them create change. So that, like I said, is the difference with conversational hypnosis, is that we don't just assume that everybody's subconscious language is the same. We know that it's individual for everyone, which is why things like scripts and, specific techniques that are applied to every single person, they yield inconsistent results, because it's kind of just sort of like blindly going, okay, this might work for you, this might work for you, this might work for you. Maybe, 50% it'll work for, just because they happen to have that metaphor, they happen to respond to that imagery. But I'm just not interested in those kind of statistics. So for really, really consistent results, conversational hypnosis teaches you how to understand their subconscious language, use it back to them, and use that to create change, which is why I always say, like, how can you prepare for these sessions? You can't, because you don't know that you don't know before the person is in front of you what their internal world is like. You don't know that they have an association with anxiety to whatever it is. You don't know. You don't know the inner markings, the inner blueprint of their subconscious mind. You don't know the language that they're speaking. And we simply can't assume it just because you have an anxiety client coming in. When you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. There. I said it. You make an ass out of you and me. Don't be making an ass out of me. Don't be making an ass out of you. Only go with what the person in front of you, your client, is giving you. So if you feel like you're getting stuck with clients, and this can happen in every therapy practice, where you feel like you're getting stuck with them because you're giving them what you think they should do. You're telling them, they're patterning. You're explaining that to them. You're giving them all this knowledge and wisdom that you have, but you feel like you're getting stuck with them because they're just not putting it into practice. This is where it is absolutely crucial for you to understand what it is that they're telling you. Because probably if you're not getting anywhere, you're feeling like you're getting really stuck and you're plateauing with clients, you're probably just missing some things that they are telling you, but they're telling you in the way that their subconscious speaks. So we need to know what to look out for and how to use it to help them. Because I will sometimes have clients, say to me, what would you do? What would help you? And I always say, like, there is literally no point in me telling you that, because what would help me probably won't help you. We're all so different, which is why we need to use the inner resourcefulness of our own subconscious mind to create that change. But that's really hard to do on our own, and so we have someone guide us. And when you can guide someone to understand themselves and understand what they're actually needing and wanting and how their subconscious mind is running the show and what it's doing and why it's doing it, that's really where you give people this gift of freedom, because they are so much more in control of their lives when they fully understand themselves in this way. Because otherwise, you tell someone, say with binge eating, a good, quotation marks, solution would be, okay, just stop eating when you're full or whatever. Like, that's a logical solution. But their subconscious isn't hearing that. They're not understanding those words because it doesn't need to be spoken to in that way. It needs to be understood, and it needs to be spoken to in the language that it speaks, which is that emotion, is those bodily sensations. It is the imagery. It is the metaphor. It is the subconscious mind's inner language. And that sounds really confusing and hard. But actually, when you know what to look for and you know how to use it, it is the most simple thing you will ever do. I cannot tell you how simple and easy and effortless my sessions are now, because I just know what to look for and I know how to use it. It's so much easier than coming up with solutions for your client. It's so much easier than, analytically approaching it. It's so much easier than logical solutions that the client in front of you is never going to do because they're just not in a place to do it. When we are able to communicate with them through the means of their subconscious mind, which is just knowing what to look for within the information that they're giving you and how to use it, then we're actually working in a place where their subconscious mind is going to come up with so many resources as to how to overcome the problem. And that happens within session, but it also predominantly happens in between each session, where they will just start to process things because their subconscious mind has been communicated with. It starts to process things. It starts to shift things. It starts to understand things that it hadn't been able to understand because it hadn't been communicated with in the way that it needed to be, where it understands the protection, the sense of safety, the feelings that it actually needs to give you in order to help as opposed to hinder. So this can only happen when we start to understand that the way we communicate in session, the way we understand what the client in front of us is telling us, is the most important thing that you need to be doing. It makes your work faster. It makes it easier, and it makes it so much less draining. You will feel like you're going from pushing to guiding, to simply guiding. Because if you want lasting change for your client, you can't just talk about it. We could talk till the cows come home and nothing's going to change, but unless we are communicating effectively with the language of their subconscious mind, then we're not going to get anywhere. We need to be using the imagery that they're giving us, the tone that they're giving us, the metaphors that they're giving us, the little subconscious moments where you're able to see that they are more speaking from that subconscious mind, which I teach you to do in my course, and suggestion, and there's so many different ways that we can really tell what to use and what to do with it. We just have to know how. It's like a light bulb gets switched on in our brains, and we can easily see what to use and what not to use, where to go, where not to go, what question to ask, what one's not necessary, because we're just communicating in a different way. It's like we're communicating just on that level. And it'll feel different. The conversation feels different because, clients will always say, oh my God, like, how did that time go so quick? It feels like we're in this time warp because we're not just having a natural, normal conversation. It's this conversation that feels really deep. It feels really like trancey. It feels really transformative because we're speaking only in the way where it this is the stuff that matters. And we're just bypassing all the rest. So we're working on a level where change is actually able to happen, but we need to understand that every single client's subconscious language is different, and we just need to be working with that. We don't need to know what it is before we get into the session with them. We just use what they give us. That's it. So if you're feeling like you're giving clients, all these really good tips, all these really good strategies that, have been studied and tested and proven that if you do this, it will help you, but they're not doing it, or they do it for a week and then they stop, it's deeper. You need to be working and communicating with them on that subconscious level so that then they're in a place where they can implement these things. But it's not going to happen if you're just consciously communicating logically. We need to get down to the juicy stuff, and that is all in their subconscious mind. All you need to do is ask questions that elicit subconscious information, spot them, utilize them, guide them to create these breakthroughs. Once you understand how to do that, it's the simplest thing in the whole world. If you are wanting to learn conversational hypnosis with me, if this is like, oh my God, I need this in my practice, this is going to up-level my business so much, this is going to skyrocket my client results, sign up to my course. You can start learning straight away. You can start learning straight away with the online recorded content. We do live trainings every 12 weeks that you can come along to all of them if you choose to, or you can just do the recorded trainings, but this is going to help your practice so much. Sign up, or if you're just curious and you have questions, send me a message. I'm here always. But remember, the subconscious mind doesn't speak English. It has its own language. You just need to understand your client's subconscious language that's in front of you. I teach you how to spot it, how to utilize it, and how to have this flow through your sessions seamlessly. Okay. I hope you liked this episode. I, as always, absolutely loved sharing with you. And if you have any questions or anything, send me a DM over at my Instagram, send me an email, whatever it is, and I will chat to you next week. All right. Bye, everybody.